Hey everyone, welcome to the Train of Thought. I'm your conductor Jonii, and this is an alert to all our passengers. A new item has actually just come into the train's Lost and Found. If you are the owner of a Daki Literature Club, Daki Makura, could you please come to the front and retrieve your pillow? She's looking kind of lonely without you.
And I'm Daro, John Teeter Truther. That man really was from the future, I swear.
Today, we're talking about... Look, there's no way around this. We're talking about waifu shit today.
If you thought, oh man, these previous episodes of this podcast were so funny. I liked when they talked about Mountain Dew. Yeah, get ready for, whiplash.
Yeah, we're gonna, I mean, I don't know what direction this is gonna go, but it's gonna be a clusterfuck.
It's gonna go in one direction.
And that direction is I'm sorry. Every time I hear a sentence like that, all I can think of is that old Jello Apocalypse video where he has that as the line in a fan fiction. It's like, one direction is going one direction, and that direction is towards my vagina.
I thought it was towards my bum, but it's even funnier.
No, it's towards my vagina.
And it's
I remember distinctly.
I was thinking about that video recently because I was like, who was that funny sounding British man in it that sounded like a funnier Guru Larry?
No disrespect to Guru Larry, of course.
Anyway, waifus, am I right?
Yeah,
Foos?
Am I right? Yeah. Here, I'll go ahead and start the timer. So you may be wondering, where's the term waifu come from? Because the Japanese word for wife is not wife or waifu. It's, I don't know, let me Google it. I was doing research earlier, but I didn't come to many conclusions. Okusan, or maybe Tsuma, or something else. I don't know.
But not
it's
waifu.
Not fucking wife. Now, if you like me need to go to therapy, you might know that in English-speaking parts of the anime fandom, the term waifu came to popular use, as everything else in modern anime did, after Azumanga Daioh aired. Because there's an episode in that where the creepy teacher has a picture of a lady, a really pretty lady, and everyone's like, who's that? And he's like, that is, he says in English, my wife. But the way he says it, it sounds like he's saying my waifu. So then that happened.
He's the culprit. He's responsible for this.
He's responsible for everything in our current moment. I've read that apparently, perhaps it was a term that may have been in use in the Japanese anime fandom earlier than that, but I could not verify that. But basically, I wanted to talk about waifu culture and maybe how we've ended up in the truly dystopian time we're in. The origin, what waifu culture even is kind of difficult to pin down. It's also kind of difficult pinning down the origins. Again, much like every anime thing in our current whereabouts, not only can I list Azumanga Daioh, but the works of Rumiko Takahashi, who made Ranma and Inuyasha, because when you look up who was the first waifu character, most people say Lum from Urusei Yatsura, probably because the main guy's a piece of shit, but she really wants to marry him anyway.
Well, so, you see, it all started on August 6th, 1945.
Oh, no.
And then stuff happened, and then there was anime.
I guess you could say stuff happened.
We can go back a little further, right? It all started with this one guy. I think he was the original harem protagonist. His name was Jesus, I think.
The Bible. That's what Daro was telling me on Twitter earlier, is that waifu culture began with the Bible.
But actually, it started off as husbando culture. You can take my word from it. I named myself after a fictional rat boy. All right.
That's excellent. Is that rat boy your husbando?
One could say, but also he's my friend and a thief, but like in a good way.
He's like a cool thief. He's a phantom thief, like in Persona.
I'm the head of the Daroachie fan club. Any Kirby fans out there know who I'm talking about. Any non-Kirby fans out there don't know who I'm talking about.
Squeak Squad was like one of the first games I beat, actually. So I'm cultured. I was going to ask you. I was going to ask you because, I think we got to be honest and open with each other with this topic, right? We gotta be. Do you have any husbandos or waifus?
Well, you see, there's this thing that it's called I don't watch anime.
That's okay. You play video games.
Yeah, but then I struggle.
The suffering has leaked into that medium too.
I struggle to find anything of a case where I am deeply emotionally attached to a character. Back in 2016, when I was #Kring without the E,
Kris Kringle.
I was definitely
were Santa Claus.
Daroachie was definitely husbando material back then, but I've mellowed out, aged like a fine wine, a non-alcoholic wine, in fact, and I've realized there's more to life than husbando.
I think a lot of people could take advice from your example, but I don't think they will. I was gonna say it's interesting for me because I was deep into anime in middle school and high school, and there were a lot of characters I was really, really attached to, but I don't know if I would consider that I thought any of them were my waifu just because I was deep into shipping them. So, I just shipped them with other characters.
Oh, the shipping culture.
Which is a whole other can of worms.
And those worms, they're kissing each other.
That's an OTP. One true pile of worms.
This is the OTP, the One True Podcast. You should listen to us and only us.
Yeah, as you can tell by this very organized and well-researched episode. I will say, for some reason, my server has decided that I believe it's that I at some point had a relationship with Ms. Pac-Man that went awry, and now I'm dating Ulala from Space Channel 5, so I guess those are my waifus. One of them is an ex-waifu.
I got another one on there. Instead of being, husbando, once again, on the best friends list, because we don't kiss people here. This is a wholesome, family-friendly environment. When in the grand old year of I don't remember when, the team that made Rivals of Aether made a April Fool's visual novel called Lovers of Aether.
God. Yeah,
and I remember that. They made Orkane into some guy who likes pulling pranks a lot, and I kind of resonate with that.
That's pretty cool. I do like that sort of became a subculture in and of itself, is the almost like tongue-in-cheek parody dating sims. Like
King of Fighters for girls.
Oh my god, I forgot about that. Do you play as girl Terry Bogard?
No, you play as girl. I don't know who, but you play as girl, and you can romance
girl Terry Bogard?
You can romance regular Terry Bogard.
Oh, okay.
Terry Booger or whatever I just called him.
Terry Boogard. But there was also something that blew my mind that I just learned about like a week ago. Is there was a Namco visual novel dating sim developed by the guy who created Homestuck, where you can date the Galaga ship, and that's pretty cool. But like none of these silly dating sims could have come to fruition, of course, without real dating sims that were unironically like, hey, do you want to date this girl or this boy
or this furry?
The furry ones came later, I think. The Hatoful boyfriends of the world came later. But yeah, no, like, to my knowledge, to my research, there were dating video games as early as, and I will pull up Wikipedia to help me out here, as early as the 80s. There was this one on the NES called Miho Nakayama's Tokimeki High School. Sorry, that was developed by fucking the creator of Metroid and also the creator of Final Fantasy. I've played a little bit of it. It's batshit insane and it's not very good. But you know, like it's sort of this weird situation where this I bring this up because this Famicom dating sim is about a real person, a real Japanese like idol, a J-pop idol. And it's like, oh my god, you can date her, you can date this real person. It's almost encouraging you to have this sort of parasocial attachment to this person whom you're already buying a bunch of merchandise with her face on it and all that. And now it's like, oh, and you can pretend to date her. And I feel like a lot of subsequent dating sims and anime interestingly kind of foster that kind of parasocial relationship, but with characters that aren't real. Because you know, dating sims really blew up, to my knowledge, I'm not an expert, in like the 90s. You get like your Tokimeki Memorials, Persona starts up, which turns into a dating sim eventually. Sakura Wars has dating sim elements.
Harvest Moon, you can
Moon,
your Fire Emblem, where you can pet the waifus, which is
Fire Emblem didn't start off that way though. I think you can marry in the early Fire Emblem games, but that's about it.
You sure can pet. Cut that out. You sure can pet the waifus in the Japanese version of some of those 3DS games.
Oh yeah, once you get... See, that's the progression though, right? You get to the 2010s and it's a no man's land.
There's all these anime about boob girls, like, listen.
There were always those.
Well, okay.
But it became different though.
Listen, we've all watched that video that Hazel made about that one anime with the massive honker lady.
Oh, I'm waiting to watch the Icon video. I'm saving that one.
But I was talking more about that one about like the girl who looks like she's, you know what? Saying looks like she's 15 doesn't actually change anything, because that's another
generous
problem.
That's also generous. We were going to have to cross that bridge eventually, because you know, there's an aspect of waifu culture that's a little problematic, which is a lot of anime girls that anime studios want you to want to date are not adults. To put it mildly, I feel like this ties into partially the nature of a lot of these dating sims or games that have dating sim elements, as well as a lot of anime. Because when I think of early examples of dating sims that really took off, there's Tokimeki Memorial, which takes place in high school. Now, Tokimeki Memorial has the wisdom, the immense sage-like wisdom to really try to keep everything as PG as possible. To
be normal.
Yeah.
To be a wholesome adventure about, you know.
The idea of Tokimeki Memorial is, you know, it is a game that is essentially like, I mean, teenagers can play it as well and enjoy it. But the idea for the adult fans of Tokimeki Memorial is that it's like, oh, well, hey, maybe you didn't do a lot of fun dating stuff in high school. What if you could relive high school and do fun dating stuff? So it's putting you in that frame, but it has the wisdom to not go full fucking insane. Unfortunately, I can't say the same about a lot of other dating sim games.
Yum.
Because you know, I mentioned, you know, there's Persona, there's Fire Emblem, whatever. This is not delving into the immense amount of PC visual novels and dating sims.
Let's talk about the NEC PC98. All right.
Yeah, to talk about the old PC98.
You know, when you hit the PC98, what do you think of? If you're normal, like you should be, you think about, oh yeah, they put Toho on that. Oh yeah,
is that
on
normal?
There. What?
Is Toho the normal one?
Yeah, Toho's the normal one, because the thing is, it's Toho, and like like Ys, whatever, like RPGs.
Whis, yeah.
And then you find out every other game on that computer is porn. Home of the classic from Spriter's Resource, Sex, and its sequel, Sex 2.
Oh yeah, I forgot about Sex 2. There certainly are a lot of Irog games on there. If you want to learn about some of them, go watch the YouTube channel Amelie Dory. I don't actually know her, but she makes good videos about them, and nobody else does, probably rightfully so, because they're afraid. But you know, there was this culture. The visual novels really like started to. And again, I might not be totally 100% on this because I don't live in Japan, so I don't know the full history. I wasn't there. I didn't write the tomes, but it seems to me that on the PC 98 and other old Japanese home computers, that style of visual novel dating sim Irog really like came to being, and you know, around this time too. I feel like things really began to move in a certain type of direction because we have the popular anime series Neon Genesis Evangelion, as it's known colloquially. And if you know anything about that anime, you know that it's a show about teenagers fighting giant mechs and stuff. But if you know anything about the merchandising, you'll know that a lot of people wanted to date all the girls in that show, and the studio in charge of that show was perfectly happy to sell them goods and services to fulfill that goal.
If you didn't know any better, you'd think that these are some dead or alive characters.
Which is interesting, considering that most of them are 15. But, you know, we'll leave that aside. I feel like Evangelion is a really interesting point because Neon Genesis Evangelion, as it's actually pronounced, it is this like beloved, considered classic like anime series that is ostensibly not like a romance anime, not. I was gonna say not sexual, but there's a little bit of stuff happen. It's a little Freudian. Some stuff happens in Neon Genesis Evangelion, but like ostensibly, it's not about like the romance aspect. You don't watch Evangelion for the deep romantic subplot or anything.
Don't worry about that.
Despite that, they sure did like marketing those female characters, and people sure were eager to buy anything with their faces on them. So suddenly, people are buying up figures. People are buying up fucking plushes. People are buying up a new invention from the 90s.
Oh no.
The Dakimakura.
Or as normal people know him as the body pillow.
The body pillow. Now, again, I do want to research this more. I don't know if I'll ever be able to make a full video on that, like a formal thing. But to my knowledge, you know, one company was like, let's make a really long pillow and print an anime character on it, unaware of the horrible mess they were about to make. Because, you know, as the 90s drift on and the 2000s begin, suddenly things are happening. Suddenly...
There's an internet.
Oh, God. I wasn't even going there, but yeah, that probably helped to fuel what I'm about to describe. And it will come up afterwards because, you know, suddenly we're getting a lot more anime that are based on all these visual novels, all these dating sim games, all these hentai games even. Now, the anime are usually toned down. The anime usually are not hentai. But sometimes they're ecchi.
Sometimes they're a bit icky.
Sometimes they're a little icky. Tosin is one of them. I don't know if that's actually based on a VN, but it sure is ecchi. Yeah, and then there's you know, there's this, and you know, a lot more anime are really starting to go for the merch route, and not just like, oh, this is a funny little action figure, but you know, maybe the figures can be something more. Maybe the figures can wear
in a different way.
Yeah, so something will be posing in an actiony way. Maybe they can wear different outfits than they wear in the show. Maybe they can be put into different poses than they're put into in the show. Maybe they can cost hundreds of dollars.
That's the least surprising one.
Yeah. And in the early 2000s you get Azumanga Daioh, you get the burgeoning English-speaking anime fandom as well. And suddenly things are happening. Suddenly people are maybe thinking about fictional characters from these anime in a bit of a different sense than they may have in the earlier 90s. And maybe, just maybe, because of these factors, maybe studios are starting to lean into that a little bit.
We gotta make their boobs bigger.
That's leaked dialogue of an actual meeting at Gainax. Well, Gainax is a bad example. Gainax always did that, but every other studio, they were like, "What if we were more like Gainax?" And when I say that, I don't mean maybe we should run out of budget for the last 2 episodes of our show and just put pencil drawings on the screen. I mean, boobie, bouncy boobie, big bouncy boobie on the screen.
Jiggly even.
Maybe we should make a mouse pad.
Oh God.
They made a lot of those. And I mean, related to this also, you have, God, this is a topic that could span so far, but there are common, let's say, character archetypes in anime these days that didn't always exist in their current form, that may have been coming more into prominence as also the genre of harem anime began to become more prominent as well.
AKA the story of Jesus.
The story of Jesus. What is the Bible if not the world's first harem anime?
And the world's first fanfiction.
And the world's first fanfic. Ranma? Nah, that was just copying the Bible. But yeah, and then suddenly you have a lot of shows that are kind of a little bit similar, and a lot of characters that are kind of a little bit similar.
All the main character boys gotta have like black hair, like short black hair,
Little pervy, but not overtly so. All these tsundere girls gotta have the blonde twin tails, which tsundere was not always a trope, but it sure is now.
Is this also the era where anime starts getting like more and more absurd titles and premises?
That's like the 2010s. The 2010s
is where
that's where you get the isekai boom. No, I'm thinking like the shitty like 2000s harem shit.
I'm not an anime
and there's a
expert.
lot of that. Oh my God. If I did make a video on this, it would be so long because there's so much shit. But yeah, there was Love Hina, which really, really popularized the girl walks into guy in the bathroom and then beats the shit out of him anyway trope.
I've never heard of that one.
Well, because that's a common, like, the protagonist walks in on the girl changing and she gets mad and like beats him up and it's supposed to be funny.
Oh.
But in Love Hina it happens in reverse, but the girl still beats the guy up anyway.
Okay, that sounds kind of funny.
And the same, I haven't watched it because
you have standards.
I wouldn't say that, because I did watch the other anime based off of work by that same guy who wrote Love Hina, who's a member of Japanese Congress now, by the way.
Oh, cool.
He's a politician, which was Negima. And Negima is perhaps the worst trash known to man, because what Negima is about, basically, summed down, well, it's funny because they asked him to make another harem anime like Love Hina, or manga, and he didn't want to do that. So he like Trojan horsed it, where it started as a harem manga and then it turned into like a shonen action thing. But the anime never gets to the shonen action part. So you have another harem anime, which is about a 10-year-old boy is the protagonist.
Okay, dangerous.
He's a wizard from Wales, England. and he goes to teach an all-girls class school.
Sorry, I really thought you were gonna be like, yeah, he's a wizard from like England. Actually, I lied to you. This was Harry Potter.
I've joked about him being Japanese Harry Potter so many times, which is funny because the character's not Japanese. He's English.
Is he also like a bigot?
I don't know if he's a bigot, but some of the things that he's argued for in Congress have me believing that he should maybe go to jail. So,
I meant the main character, but this works too.
Yeah, the main character's fine in Negima. Listen, Negima is garbage, but I watched it when I was in like freshman year of high school, so I do have a soft spot for it. I do like Negi Springfield, as he's known. He's a good kid. But yeah, he goes to teach an all-girls middle school. So here we have the logical conclusion of harem anime, which is that there are 30 potential love interests for our main character, who is a 10-year-old boy. Which is great. It's not. The guy who wrote Negima should probably go to jail.
Yeah, this sounds like you should go to jail.
But I brought up Negima because what we begin to see in this time is that there's so many harem anime suddenly. There's so many like OMG my waifu characters that they have to get like crazier and stupider.
What about
though they're relying on the same tropes as they always have?
What about the anime where the guy has to hold a boner for an entire month, otherwise he loses his house?
Is this the episode where he lost his house?
Yeah, I was thinking about that post. I was like,
that one's just literally a hentai. I haven't seen the whole thing.
I mean, I figure it's about a boner, main character is a penis here.
I don't think. Well, that's the weird thing about waifu culture, though, right? Is like a lot of. I mean, Negima's a bad example because that's a manga, but a lot of like that harem anime stuff is based on those like hentai visual novels, but because it's like anime, they gotta scrub it clean and then still sell their fan-based like lewd figures of the characters and shit, because that's what everyone wants to see, because that's why they made the show. But they can't make it hentai because it's a TV show. Yeah. So it's weird. So I'm trying to think of things that are like all hentai all the way down and have that type of like, I think that's what it is. It's the merch potential. If you make something just a hentai, you limit the audience, and so you don't have the merch potential.
This is now, instead of waifu culture, this episode is the deep
capitalism of anime.
Yeah, the deep economic impact of hentai. If you thought this was a normal podcast, I'm sorry.
I'm trying to think though. There are like actually like pretty popular franchises that go really deep into the merch shit that started as hentai visual novels. Like
I'm thinking of Fate Stay.
I was gonna say Fate. Yeah, Fate in its entirety started as a hentai visual novel, and now there are gacha games where people spend hundreds of dollars to see their wife.
Hey, guess what? It wraps back around.
It does. Gacha games are a whole other thing.
Part 3, gacha games.
Holy shit. And that then we're getting into the 2010s, because Fate had a pretty bad anime in 2004, and it has since had several pretty good anime and games and a lot of other stuff. So people are pretty invested in some of those Fate characters. Because you were supposed to be, because in the original Fate visual novel, you can romance at least 3 of them. I haven't played it, so I don't know if you can romance more, but you can romance at least 3. I know that much because they made anime out of all 3 of those routes.
Awesome.
It's great. But yeah, like, then 2010s is also where you get things like the waifufication of Fire Emblem. Which is funny because I've heard they've dialed that back in the Switch games, but Fire Emblem, it's just old like strategy RPGs. You got to fight with swords and stuff. Suddenly on the 3DS, there are mini games where you pet your girls, and then you can marry them and have children.
But only in Japan for the petting.
Only in Japan for the petting. You can still romance them.
If you want to have a 3DS game about petting things, go play Pokemon.
Yeah. You can't pet any girls in that one though, unless
there's girl Pokemon out there.
Yeah, I guess so. That's Fire Emblem for the furries, though. If you're not a furry, I don't know what to tell you.
That's Fire Emblem for people who like bad RPGs.
I mean, Fire Emblem. I like Fire Emblem. I don't know. I was gonna say, it's funny. I was almost gonna say that Pokemon is Fire Emblem for people who go outside, but I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. Little of column A, little of column B. But yeah, you have all these franchises that at some point in their history weren't entirely about dating cute anime girls, become that. Persona, to my knowledge, also did not start out the way it is now. And now the dating sim aspect of Persona is one of the big selling points. So it's kind of interesting to see that development. And of course, you're getting more merchandise of characters than ever. I don't even know if I want to look up Fate merchandise.
Oh, don't do that. Don't do that.
Sure, there's a lot of dockies. Fire Emblem is probably a little better.
Fire Emblem is like, see, that's a Nintendo franchise. You're gonna get normal results.
People are gonna make dockies of it, though.
Yeah, but maybe they're the dockies that don't have the nude bits on them.
Well, listen, Etsy is not a good website.
It's wonderful.
Oh, but yeah, no, like the expensive figures of all the player characters I can see. Conspicuously when here. Fire Emblem official character merch. I want to be fair. Yeah, this is mostly of the female characters. Who would have guessed? Although that does bring us to husbando culture, which is a related phenomenon. I don't know if you have any commentary on that, Daro.
I think, look, being on the internet for a while, I don't think it exists as hard as waifu culture. Especially because a lot of these harem protagonist anime boys, like we said, were the most piece of paper anime boys of all time. There's nothing there. I'm looking at this and I see that's nothing. There's nothing going on.
Dara, you failed to consider, though. There are, of course, harem anime where there's a boy and a bunch of girls like him for reasons that no one will ever fully understand. But there's a reverse side of that token, Dara. There are reverse harem anime wherein there is a girl, usually who's actually a good character that people like, and there's a bunch of boys.
Okay.
The two examples that I can think of that were popular in the early 2000s, one of which, oh my god, people were really into the characters. Fruits Basket, and of course, Ouran High School Host Club.
I don't know.
The king of Tumblr.
Oh.
You don't know Ouran High School Host Club?
No, I don't.
Oh my god. So...
See, I'm
gonna send you a picture of the boys from.
All right, it's time to tangent. We got a tangent off of this topic, and I know the perfect thing. When you said that, to me, it made me think of, like, okay, well, I'm not gonna look at that for a second. It made me think of like Oishi High School Warrior from Smosh cartoons.
Oh my god, I forgot about that.
I forgot they had that whole cartoon thing anyway, like.
Hey, she's got the... Never mind.
Anyway, these are
Do you think Oishi High School Warrior is somebody's waifu?
I hope not. I hope nobody remembers that show.
Well, I didn't until you brought it up.
Hey, is this the Yaoi Hands boy?
Is it the Yaoi Hands boy? It might be.
These are some yaoi looking hands. Anyway, so
They are
I got sent a picture of Ouran,
No,
whatever.
it's not the Yaoi Hands boy. But I searched Yaoi Hands, and one of the pictures is a picture of Tamaki.
Okay, wait a minute. I have to retract my statement about husbando culture because I just remembered there was that one anime about all the anime boys doing ice skating.
Oh, Yuri on Ice. That one's good.
And the one anime where all the anime boys are swimming.
I was going to say, you also neglect to realize. Well, you don't. You did just realize it. in the 2010s, something happened.
Tumblr.com got made.
Tumblr.com got made. And not only was there free Eternal Summer, a show that some have called deep, I guess.
Like the pools they swim in.
One of my straight male friends was recommended that show by one of his female friends who said it was deep, and according to him, and I quote, "The only kind of deep I got in that show was deep into a man's pants." I haven't watched Free Eternal Summer, so I cannot further comment. But there was also a little show, since we're talking about how Tumblr ties into all of this.
There's a little show called Gravity Falls. That's right.
No.
Bill Cipher.
That's not quite where I was going with it, but yeah, I suppose Bill Cipher is probably someone's husband, though. There's Giffany is in Gravity Falls. That's a waifu character, I guess. You're kind of a parody of dating sim like waifu characters. I was gonna say there was a little show, Daro.
Yeah.
Called Hatelia.
We need to watch out. Wee woo.
There are a lot of people on Tumblr back in the day, and probably still now, probably the same people. Really liked those silly little anime boys.
And they're based off countries.
Yeah, if you don't know, Hatelia is a comedy anime where the different countries of the world are personified as cute anime boys. And people lost their fucking minds.
You know what? This husbando culture, I'm gonna tie it into something else. I said as a joke Bill Cipher, but this ties in to the Tumblr sexy man phenomenon.
It does, actually, yes.
It all
That's
started
true.
back in 2012. This little unknown indie movie named The Lorax came out. And there was this guy.
Ryan Ross, former guitar player of Panic at the Disco, was a main character.
There was this guy, and he was the Onceler. And do you know what they made to the one in the original books? The Onceler was just a pair of green gloves. But as we all know, in the new movie, which is older, 10 years old plus by now, so it's not new anymore.
No.
The Onceler.
Taylor Swift's in that movie.
Yeah, so is Zac Efron. But anyway,
Betty White too.
Back. They made the back in time version of the Onceler, and they made him as the people on Tumblr called him sexy. And
Indeed, they did.
And the thing about it is that this also ties into the shipping culture of the Lorax, if you didn't know, is mostly about little animal creatures living in a forest, and this old, orange testicle named the Lorax. And this is 2012 Tumblr. This is peak super hulock. You got to get into the shipping culture, but you can't ship the Onceler with the Lorax unless you're into that, which is weird.
You could make the Lorax also into a sexy man.
Yeah, but they didn't think about that. They instead thought about the only other rational idea of shipping the Onceler with himself.
Oh, that's not where I thought this was going.
And
I mean, I was going to tie this all into the yaoi boom of the 2010s, but I mean, I guess.
And I think
we can do self-cessed instead, I suppose.
Well, I'm going to keep going on my tangent because we need to distance ourselves from the hentai talk of 20 minutes ago really fast.
We only have a couple minutes left, so we might have to end on the Onceler, but yeah, that's the problem. Is I'm trying to lead it back into the, I guess not hentai talk, but into the yaoi dimension.
Well, don't worry.
I've been watching some yaoi lately.
Don't worry. This is all about waifu and not hentai culture. We don't talk about that here, except for what we did.
Let's not.
This is all about waifu and husbando culture.
We should do an episode about hentai dubs.
All right, pal.
Later. Not now.
That's not now. Anyway, no. Tumblr decided that any pieces of media that came out in around that time period, if there was a guy and he was like, I'm a little evil, and he,
Ooh, evil boy,
he had a nice outfit or talked fancy, regardless of what he was, he was a sexy man. For instance, Don't Hug Me, I'm Scared Too, the clock guy. They made him into an anime boy, and particularly a white, skinny, tall anime boy.
That does tie back in, because essentially they had this, there was this husbando culture, and they saw fit to turn every other character to fit them into the mold of being a Hetelia or Free Eternal Summer or Ouran High School Host Club husbando.
Bet. That's exactly all this, because like I said with Bill Cipher from Gravity Falls, they turned him into his tall, skinny anime boy. There was a character from Danganronpa 2 that you haven't met yet, and you will, and his name is Nagito Komaeda, but he's a charming lad, and people were like, I like him. Sexy man. And there was Sans from Undertale. Yeah.
That's the one.
Except I don't even think they turned him into like a tall, skinny white boy. I think they just kept him as Sans, the skeleton.
I was gonna say that's been the evolution of Tumblr sexy man culture that I've really appreciated. Is now when they take like a total like, what are you doing? Why would you turn this into an anime boy character? They don't. They just leave it. But they make a sexy man anyway. The
Tumblr sexy man era. We live in the modern age where I don't know how waifu culture is anymore, or husbando culture, but Tumblr sexy man culture doesn't seem to exist as strongly. And I know this because when Deltarune Chapter 2 happened, everybody started latching on to Spamton, but Tumblr agreed collectively, we are not making this guy a sexy man. He's a funny little guy.
I think the rise of funny little guy culture has probably killed Tumblr sexy man culture, and that's our time.
And hopefully, maybe one day, funny little guy will kill husbando and waifu culture.
Maybe it's just the circles I've been hanging around in. This is probably my final point because we are out of time. But I have seen a recent trend. This might also just be because I'm in the Nichijou shitposting Facebook group, but I have seen a trend that I enjoy, which is instead of haha, big booby, sexy girl, I want to marry her culture, I've been seeing more of look at this girl, she's such a dumb fucking stupid idiot, she's funny.
Cringe, I like her. Fail.
Yeah, it's the decline of the girl boss era and the rise of the girl failure era, which I am in favor of because I think girl failure characters are very funny.
So we're heading in a good direction.
Yeah, nature is healing. If you wanna listen though, if you wanna buy a fucking Daki. If you have a waifu, if you have a husbando, if you have a sexy man, do whatever you will. Just please be mindful when you're picking the character and depicting them. Please God, holy shit. Oh my God, what the fuck?
Well,
thank you.
To trace our thought back, we talked about the early era of dating sims.
Oh yeah, that we began with how did we begin? Did we start with ancient dating sims?
I think it went from like dating sims, and then we went to like hentai, because when you talk about dating sims, you gotta go to.
So I was explaining the like progression to my understanding of how anime became increasingly waifu-fied, and it was. I mean, partially I talked about the increased like presence of character goods, like with shows like Evangelion, and how that also coincided with a lot more anime being based off of hentai visual novels. The only example I really provided was what was it? Fucking
who knows?
Fate. But there's a lot of them. I'm trying to think of more of them off the top of my head. School Days is a poor example because nobody likes that show, but that's one.
There's Bible Black.
That's just a hentai.
Oh, I guess
not
so.
The same thing.
I don't know. Listen, I only know What?
I've watched so many.
Thanks for that little tidbit.
Well, they're not. The shows aren't hentai. They're just based off of hentai.
I remember there was this one show.
Like Canon is one.
There was this one show that showed up one time that was called Interspecies Reviewers that apparently was based on something that was a hentai, but
Interspecies Reviewers was like an ecchi though, wasn't it?
I don't watch anime. I'm
pretty sure what the anime adaptation was still pretty explicit. It just wasn't a hentai.
I'm pretty sure it was messed up.
Some of the thing that throws me off, I'm aware we're kind of carrying on, but something that throws me off that makes this whole conversation more nuanced and weird and complicated is that a lot of the anime that are based off of like hentai visual novels end up being themselves pretty like PG and like present like you could take this home to ma like Clannad.
This is now a
based
Christian
on a hentai
manga
visual novel. Yeah, like there's a couple. Some of them don't really dial it back that much though, so it's like it's totally a crapshoot. It typically depends on how good the story of the original thing actually is, because a lot of visual novels actually are like really story centric and they have like this strong like component and like it's not just porn, but they are also porn. So sometimes they'll just scrub out the porn and you'll have a perfectly good story. Other times there's not really that much else there, so they don't know what else to do with it. It's really complicated. And I haven't watched, I don't know. I used to watch a lot more garbage, so I used to be a lot more kind of in tune with that, but I don't know. There's a lot of stuff out there.
Look, all my anime experience was going to anime club back in high school for 1 year and finding out
where you watched good anime.
Well, I don't know.
All sorts of good fun stuff.
Yeah, we got to learn
like
about
Negima.
Well, not that one, but
it's not very good.
I've unique choices, not in the sense of like, oh, they're weird, but in the sense of who heard of this? What is this?
Oh, those are my favorite ones.
Well, we'll talk about it after.
We should talk about like anime club sometime.
Yeah, I do.
I ran the anime club for a while. I inherited it. But that aside, we were talking about how the character goods were increasing, the amount of anime.
So when you say character goods are increasing, you mean their breast size, right?
Also, that a lot of the time. Even in good shows.
Japanese Harry Potter and how the creator should go to prison.
Oh god, I could talk about Negima for so long, but I don't think I should, because I don't think more people should know that Negima exists. I think the guy who wrote Negima should just go to jail. I'm sorry, this is another anecdote, but I was talking to someone on Twitter once. I was playing Akinator. And I was trying to get it to guess really obscure characters, and it correctly guessed a character from Negima named Notica. And someone in like the local music scene replied to the tweet and went like, "Oh my god, Notica from Negima?" And I was like, "Yeah." And she's like, "I fucking read Negima because I got it from the Christian like church book sale. Notica was my lesbian awakening." And I was like, "Yo, really? That's awesome." And she's like, "Yeah, that manga's kind of fucked up though." And I was like, "Yeah, it really is." And that was our whole conversation. It was great. Anyway, we're talking about Negima, the character goods. We're talking about how they did begin to sexualize the characters more, which is funny because they I don't know. I'm thinking about it. And I can remember a lot more 80s and 90s anime that are a lot less concerned with just showing you things. Like Ranma. Ranma will just show you things a lot of the time. But 2000s anime, a lot of them are a little more coy about it. Some of them not really so much. But we get the character archetypes developing. And then there's the gacha games. There's the waifufication of games like Fire Emblem. Then we started talking a little bit about husbando culture,
which leads
like
us
Around High School Host Club, which led to Tumblr.
Which leads to Tumblr, and then the real husbandoification of Sexy Man.
Yeah. And then we talked about how nature is healing a little bit. We're gravitating away from husbandos and waifus and sexy men, and gravitating towards silly little guys and role failures.
And just a bunch of weird isekai.
That's true. Well, we can't truly gravitate away from waifu culture until isekai dies, because isekai that's the thing.
I
we didn't even get into that.
I hate to break it to you, Johnny. The highest grossing movie of 2023 so far is an isekai.
Are you shitting me?
It's called Super Mario Brothers the movie.
God damn it. Okay. I legitimately thought it was going to be like some Sword Art Online shit. But no, like, I mean, I'll avoid going into too much depth, but like, in the way that harem anime were the degenerate waifu trash genre of the 2000s, I feel like isekai have become that, largely. There are isekai that aren't like degenerate waifu trash, but a lot of isekai are degenerate waifu trash. Like Sword Art Online absolutely is 100%. Which is great. I'm glad. Well, hey, at the very least, I'm glad that they can push all that shit over there where I don't have to deal with it anymore.
I'm just here.
I don't watch isekai.
I'm just here watching my. I don't watch anime. I don't know.
I watch anime mostly with friends now, and we like to watch garbage. So
I mean, mid 2000s garbage is peak. So what can you say?
That's true. Listen, all I can say about waifu culture, can't say it's been a net positive for the world, but I sure do own a lot of anime girl plushes. So I guess who really wins?
And I hope our passengers weren't overhearing all of this, because we said the word hentai a bit too many times for someone's daily commute to be normal.
We also said the word boob, jiggling boob, titty boob, fun bag boob, breast a lot.
Yeah!
Lots of those in anime.
See you next time. Be sure to... Wait, we need to do an outro thing, because we never do an outro thing.
Please pick up your pillow. She misses you.
No, I didn't mean that. I meant you gotta give us a like, give us a comment, give us a subscribe. If you're
listening to this on a platform like Spotify or iTunes
or Apple Podcasts or whatever else, rate 5 stars,
follow,
leave a review saying I like it when they talk about boobs.
Yeah, download the episode.
Be sure to
recommend us other breast-related topics to cover in the future.
Give us a couple scrobbles on Like FM.
Give us some scrobbles. Tell us what your waifu or husbando is. Wash your hands after you do that. Don't come near me in real life. I'm kidding.
And remember, guys, John Teeter's out there. He really is from the future. He told me all the anime, such as